At 6 a.m., my phone blared, jolting me up. I knew the sound. It was an alarm bell for another fire, and my crew chief, Mari, who also happens to be my wife, sprang up to her feet and flung on her jacket. 15 acres burning, choppers waiting, let's go, let's go. Within 12 minutes, we were soaring through the skies on our way towards a firestorm. I was horrified because this fire was unnatural. The forest was still wet, meaning the blaze was man-made. We landed at 7 a.m. and hopped out as quickly as we could, lugging our gear. It was myself, Mari, my best friend Diego, and the rookie, Tate. The smoke engulfed our lungs before we could put on our gas masks. We were several feet away from the burning cinders when Mari read her iPad and barked out commands. Red flag at 6 a.m. tomorrow, 50-mile-an-hour east winds, 8% humidity. If this is still burning when those winds hit, 15 acres becomes 15,000 by lunch. We only have 23 hours to contain this. Start digging out a perimeter. Now! I started digging and thought of the houses that were 3 miles down the ridge. Houses, families with kids that are sleeping right now. It was up to us to protect them. We dug and dug, clearing out the brush. My back was on fire as sweat poured into my gas mask. Diego was 20 feet to my left running the chainsaw, cutting a break, sweat coming through his jacket in dark patches. Mari called distances. Tate wouldn't shut up. Then Diego's chainsaw screeched to a halt. He killed the engine and stared down at the ground in shock. I knelt down and scraped. I found a vent pipe, then another, then plastic tubing, the kind that doesn't belong in a forest, snaking under the moss. I followed it a foot down with my fingers, and my knuckles hit steel. I scraped harder and discovered a shipping container, buried, way the hell out here, miles away from any roads. Leaves rustled behind me. I turned around and saw 4 Latin men step out from behind a tree with rifles aimed at us. They looked like some type of mercenaries wearing mismatched tactical gear. The heavy-set one stepped up, looked directly at me, and smiled as if he was excited that he would have a chance to kill. Behind him stood a tall, lean, calculating Mexican man that was eerily still and didn't carry a rifle. He had a small pistol on his hip and a little black notebook in his shirt pocket. He didn't speak. The heavy man kept glancing back at him and said, "Patron Salvador, Los Cabramos." I was confused, but realized he just called Salvador his boss. Then it hit me. They were cartel. We had heard back at the firehouse about them having drug labs hidden deep in the woods, but never really believed it. The heavy-set one started patting us down one by one, searching for anything that could be used as a weapon. Tate, our big talker, couldn't help himself. "Amigos, what up? So look, there's no need to get violent. We can all be friends here. We're just simple firefighters. We're not policia. We will leave you to your business." They all stared at him, already getting annoyed. I tapped him, trying to signal for him to shut up. He shoved my hand away as if he knew better. "I got this, bro. Where you guys from in Mexico? You like tacos? I'm a burrito fan myself. How is it being badass cartel guys? Must be so sick." As he was yapping, he had secretly turned on his radio, hoping headquarters was listening in on the conversation. I dated a Mexican chica once. Damn, was she saucy. The heavy-set man's eyes darted down and saw Tate's radio light was on. He realized what Tate was doing and told the leader. I was terrified that he would do something bad, so I tried to step in. "Please, let us live. We haven't seen anything here and we don't want any trouble." Salvador gave a small, indifferent nod to the heavy-set guy, which prompted him to raise his rifle and end Tate. My heart sank as I immediately thought of his wife and 2 little kids. My wife got grabbed by a Mexican cartel guy with a mohawk and was being dragged towards the shipping container. My blood boiled when I thought about what they might do to her. Another cartel guy with a long scar on his face shoved Diego down to his knees and stuck his rifle against the back of his head. It was obvious that the decision had already been made to execute all of us. I looked down at Tate's body, and then I looked at the line of trees behind me. I quickly pulled my wife aside and whispered, "I'm gonna escape and come back for you. I don't see another way." She nodded, giving me the permission that I needed. Then within half a second, I made the decision. I dove over a rotted tree log and rolled down a steep area of brush as bullets rattled out towards me from all 3 cartel guys, clipping the bark behind me and whizzing past my head. Luckily, I didn't get hit. As I kept tumbling, I was able to look back and see Salvador standing up on the ridge, glancing down at me with a smirk, as if he was being entertained. I hit the bottom of the canyon hard, slammed my ribs, quickly scrambled up, and took off running for my life. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs went rubber, and then I ran some more. When I felt like I was momentarily in the clear, I tried to gather myself. I was surprised to see that they weren't following me. Flashes of what they might be doing to my beautiful wife and childhood friend Diego haunted my mind. I wished that I could have been heroic and somehow saved them, but they had 4 rifles. We're not military. We don't carry guns. I honestly didn't see another way to survive in that moment and then make a plan to rescue them. But the guilt of thinking I could have done more to help them will haunt me forever. My guts burned with what I just witnessed, but I didn't have any time to mourn. I needed to quickly make a plan. I had my fire axe. I had my foil tent fire shelter. I had 2 road flares, a quart of water, a folding knife, and a radio with a cracked screen from the fall. I found a thicker area of tree cover and tried the radio in a panicked whisper. "It's Reyes. Anyone there? Over. Nothing. This is Reyes. Can anyone hear me? Over." A strange crackling sound came out of it, and I couldn't tell if anyone was there. Then it cut out. I made my way around the perimeter of the fire and climbed up a ridge as quietly and slowly as possible so I could get a view on the cartel. I found a lookout spot perched behind a tree and saw them shoving Diego and Mari into the cargo container. I was relieved to see they were alive, but feared what they were planning to do with them. They started loading boxes and equipment from inside the meth lab onto pallets, which meant they were going to probably chopper out the important parts of the drug lab before the firestorm hit, and let the wildfire erase everything they couldn't carry out. I think this was how they were covering their tracks, but all of this was new to me, so I really wasn't sure. Salvador stood apart from the others on a flat rock, speaking into a satellite phone. At around 2:30, Salvador called over a scout, pointed down to where I had run away, then pointed directly up at me. I thought I was slick, but he had been watching me the whole time and knew exactly where I was. Salvador handed his scout a rifle and gave him instructions. I watched the scout break off from the group, head down the mountain, and start hunting for me. I watched the scout closely, and then noticed the smoke column from the fire was leaning away from him. I had to change the direction of the smoke, so I cut a small horseshoe-shaped fire line into the dirt, dropped a handful of dry pine needles inside it to ignite a flame, then lit it upwind with my flare, so the smoke switched its path and faced the direction the scout was coming from. The flame headed downhill the way I needed it to, slow, contained, predictable to me, terrifying to anybody who didn't understand it. The scout came around the bend towards my position, saw the fire I had started and panicked. He tried to make his way around it, which put him exactly where I needed him to be, fully surrounded by smoke. I snuck down the brush towards him, gripped onto my fire axe, and mentally prepared myself for what I knew I had to do. I understood that it was either me or him. Pure survival. I saw him coughing and trying to wave the smoke away. It was fully covering him, and he probably couldn't see more than a foot in front of him, which made him not know what direction to go to get out of it. I slowly made my way up behind him, stepped into his cloud of smoke, and he quickly turned around and fired his rifle at me. I stepped to the side and got very lucky that he missed. I quickly closed the distance between us and slammed my fire axe into him. He fell over in agony and dropped the rifle. I grabbed the rifle, stared down at him, and saw him closely. He really looked like a lost, dumb, violent 20-year-old kid. I hated the fact that it had to be me to end him, but I didn't have a choice. He was in extreme pain, so I used his rifle and finished it. I didn't let myself feel anything, then took his rifle, his knife, his binoculars, and his radio. It crackled loudly with Salvador's voice speaking Spanish. I have a Spanish last name, but never learnt the language because my mom is American and I was born in Los Angeles, so I had no clue what he was saying. Then there was a long pause. He obviously understood that his scout was no longer with us, and in a calm, eerie tone. "Hello, Mr. Fireman. If you don't turn yourself into me within the hour, both your wife and friend will die." How did he know we were married? I thought hard about how to handle this, and figured that I might as well challenge him if I wanted to get him away from his crew. I spoke into the radio. "Listen up, you cartel piece of shit. Why don't you come down here and face me yourself, instead of having your men do all the dirty work for you? Are you a scared little bitch that can't do anything on your own?" I hoped he'd take the bait. "When I catch you, I will torture you in unimaginable ways, then do the same to your pretty little wife and your family." I felt a chill crawl up my spine because I knew he wasn't kidding. I stayed quiet, used the wall of smoke for cover from being seen, made my way back to the upper ridge, and found a better hiding spot to keep spying and studying their movements. I started reading the mountain the way I'd been trained to read every fire I'd ever worked with: wind direction, fuel moisture, and slope angle. I had memorized back in fire school that there are 3 things that drive how a fire moves: fuel, weather, and the surface of the earth. The first is what's burning, the second is what's pushing the fire, and the third is what's shaping it. A great firefighter doesn't fight a fire, he reads it. Then he positions himself where it'll do the work for him. I was far from being a great firefighter, but at least knew the basics. I marked 3 potential death zones on the mountain in my head. If I could lure a cartel guy into them, I wouldn't have to pull a trigger because the fire would do the job for me. I tried the busted-up radio again and got nothing. Then it was a little before 6 p.m. when a black, unmarked helicopter flew in low over the ridge. I watched through the binoculars and counted 6 more cartel guys roping down. They totaled 9 men now, and I was just 1. And I had 12 hours until the red flag winds turned this entire mountain into a raging firestorm. Salvador ordered the new arrivals to keep loading everything out of the meth lab and put as much as they could onto the black chopper. I figured I had a way better chance at surprising them in the dark, so I sipped on the water I had, being sparing about it, and tried to get some rest. Dusk finally arrived, and it was time to make my first real move. I used my flare and lit a controlled fire along the eastern edge of the canyon, calculated the wind exactly, and watched the flames lean the way I needed them to. The fire I built wasn't big enough to threaten Mari and Diego in the buried container. I wouldn't risk that. But it was big enough to put an intense wall of smoke right in the middle of all the cartel men. When you're stuck inside a smoke column at night, you can't see your friend or your enemy. You can barely even see your own hands. The fire made Salvador and his men scatter around in a panic. He got pissed, then sent 5 men in different directions to start looking for me. I started moving towards Salvador and the container. The whole area was fully covered in dense smoke as I got closer to it. It was about 3 minutes later when I heard, "The fire got 2 of us, boss, and injured Pedro. Santiago and Perez are gone." Salvador calmly spoke. "If you let this pinchy gringo kill any more of you, every one of you deserves it. Find him and bring him to me, or I end you myself." I worked my way close enough to the container about 50 yards behind Salvador, and I saw Mari through a gap in the smoke. She and Diego were zip-tied to the edge of the cargo container. I was also able to see inside the 40-foot container and into the actual meth lab itself. They had already packed up most of it, but there was still some equipment left over and a whole crate of actual meth that they were storing until the last moment they would need to move it. I made eye contact with Mari, and she signaled with her eyes towards where Salvador was. That told me all I needed to know about how and where to set another fire. I knew I needed to dig in and wait for the right moment, so I dug out a hole under some thick brush and waited. I was about 50 feet away from them, and they had no idea. About an hour later, the 2 cartel men that went out looking for me returned. Salvador smacked them both across the face and yelled at them for failing. Then I looked up and saw Mari whisper something to Diego, and he looked in my direction. Then that compelled Salvador to look directly at my position. He got up, grabbed his hatchet, and made his way right towards me. I slid further down into the brush, took a huge breath in, and went dead still. Salvador made his way over to me and searched the area. I could smell his body odor as he got closer and tried to control my breathing. He gripped onto his hatchet and stabbed it into the brush beside me. I froze up and did my very best not to move. I had the rifle in my hands underneath the dirt, but had no light or visual of where he was. He stabbed into the ground and got a foot away from me. I was tempted to just leap out and fire at him, but didn't like my chances against 8 other cartel guys that all had guns. I needed to wait for the perfect moment. Sweat dripped down my face, and I tasted it along with a mouthful of dirt. Salvador stepped directly on top of my back. I'll be honest, that's when I closed my eyes and prayed. I really think God was looking out for me at that moment, because Salvador was just about to stab his hatchet down into my back when he got called over by one of his guys that had a question about the meth. Phew, close call. I waited in that hole until about 1 a.m. Then when I knew everyone was asleep, I quietly stood up, snuck over to the bottom end of the container, and lit another fire. This time, I wanted the smoke to go directly into the meth lab's vent, which would fill the lab with smoke and ruin the meth. Salvador would have to choose between fighting me and saving his product. Most cartel guys would choose to save their product. I lit the fuse and walked away. The flame burst up from the ground, and I took cover behind a tree. I heard shouting in Spanish and saw the cartel guys scrambling towards the container with fire extinguishers and shovels, exactly as I'd predicted. While they worked hard to put that fire out on that side, I snuck around to the back of the container and cut Mari and Diego loose with my folding knife. I pulled her in close and kissed her. Then she whispered in a panic, "Salvador went down into the lower levels of the container. He's below us. They must have dug out and created several floors underneath this container and turned it into some sort of a bunker. The three of us snuck out, made sure the coast was clear, and stepped out of the top floor of the container. As soon as we stepped out, gunshots rattled off towards us, bullets bounced off of the metal container behind us, and we automatically stopped cold and raised our arms in surrender. My heart sank as I knew we were caught, and Salvador would follow through on his sick promise of torturing Mari and my family. It wasn't Salvador holding the gun though. It was his heavy-set right-hand man. He formed a huge smile across his ugly face as he saw me. Salvador probably offered a huge reward for my head. Then for the second time, I think God intervened. The wind was blowing the fire I had just started north, towards the container. Then by some miracle, the wind decided to do a full 180-degree turn, and it was as if the earth formed its very own blowtorch and set the heavy-set guy on fire. His entire body got consumed by flames, and he screamed out in agony. To make things even crazier, the gunpowder from his bullets and rifle ignited the fire even further, and he literally exploded. That got the attention of two other cartel guys, so we didn't wait. We took off running as fast and far away as we could and escaped. When we reached the flat land of tree cover, we stopped to catch our breath. "Are you guys okay? Any injuries?" Mari held back tears. "I'm okay." I looked at Diego and he just shook his head and raised up his shirt to reveal several cuts and bruises. These guys get off on some sick shit. They're a different breed of evil. I thought to myself, what can I put on those cuts so he doesn't bleed out? Then I remembered I always carried some extra glue in my bag for simple cuts we might get if we're out in the wilderness and need to quickly close up a wound. I glued him up and contained the bleeding for now, but I could tell he was feeling really weak. The wind is going to pick up and spread that fire. By 4 a.m. the prefrontal winds will begin, so we have about 20 minutes to build out a safer cover area. Let's keep moving. We went down the mountain slope as quickly as we could, and I kept looking back to make sure we were in the clear. My fear, paranoia, was at an all-time high. We made it down to a flatbed creek, and the initial red flag winds kicked in. We looked up at the fire, and within seconds, the flames were already 30 feet tall and rolling toward us at 40 miles an hour. The creek bed was the best ground we could ask for if we wanted to find some kind of safe ground from the raging fires. It had wet stones, exposed mineral soil, water running in a thin band down the middle of it, and a low overhang of rock on the south side. We deployed the fire shelter at 5:35. There was only one shelter tent, and all three of us needed to fit inside of it. We all dunked our bodies into the shallow water of the creek until we were all soaked through. We considered all of us just laying in the water creek, but it was too shallow. It wouldn't have protected us. Mari taught me, when a fire overruns your position, the only chance you have is to take away the three things a fire needs. Wet ground takes heat, cleared dirt removes fuel, and lying flat puts you below the worst of the hottest convection column. Then it's extremely important to hold still as the fire moves above us. The red flag winds arrived 10 minutes early, and the three of us were all laying in the shelter tent, soaked from head to toe and covered in sand. I heard the firestorm approaching. It sounded like a freight train gathering speed up in the sky right above us. 300-foot crown, tornado-like flames rolled over the ridge, the temperature spiking past 1500 degrees at its peak. I couldn't hear anything but the roaring blaze. I couldn't see anything but white-orange light through closed eyelids. I held Diego and Mari underneath me, and I prayed again. I thought, well, if I'm going to die, there's no one better than my wife and best friend to be with. Then I thought about Tate. I thought about Salvador in his bottom bunker, untouched, letting this happen. The roar went on, and then after what seemed like an eternity, it slowly began to fade. It got quieter as the light dimmed. The temperature dropped, slowly at first, then faster, the way it does when the bulk of the flames moves on. I lay there for a long time after the worst of it passed, because I knew the second wave of heat could still kill us. Then once that passed by, we all got up, checked our bodies for any damage, felt a few first-degree burns, but were mostly okay. I saw the sun starting to rise, making the sky a purple-reddish tone that was raining ash down on us. Every single tree on the ridge was a charred spike, creating a hellscape. We all hugged each other and held back tears, grateful to be alive, yet so sad about what had happened. Our pathway back towards the nearest radio station that was roughly 6 miles away took us right past the buried container lab. The steel container was glowing red, slumping into itself, with the paint blistered black. The cartel's evidence had been erased exactly the way Salvatore had planned. There were several charred corpses scattered around. He left the other cartel guys to burn. I held my rifle as we were walking past the container and stopped cold. Diego and Mari turned to face me. Diego looked concerned. "What's up? Why are you stopping?" I was instantly struck by the thought of Salvador finding out our unit and discovering who we all are. It wouldn't have been that hard for him. Salvadore's inside that bottom-level bunker. So, we need to finish this. If we let him go, none of us will ever sleep soundly again. Everywhere we go, we'll be looking over our shoulder, wondering when he'll show up or send someone to get us. I don't know about you guys, but I can't live like that. He's in that bunker, most likely alone. His people don't know anything about us, but Salvador does. They both thought about it for a few seconds, then agreed. We had to finish this. I walked over to the bunker hatch and noticed that the concrete shaft was still intact. The fire hadn't killed what was below. It had just sealed it in. I signaled to Mari and Diego, and we crouched 20 feet back behind a fallen log. I brought the rifle up, aimed it at the entrance of the container, and waited. I knew 3 things about a man who survived a firestorm in a sealed bunker. He's out of air, he's desperate, and he's not coming out of that bunker empty-handed. We waited as most of the smoke had lifted. The first edge of morning sun was starting to break over the ridge. And then, at 8:45, the hatch hissed. Hydraulic pressure released. The heavy steel door swung open and Salvador climbed out into the ash. He was soot-streaked and his shirt was half burned. He was the only one in there, and as soon as he stepped out, he opened fire at us with his pistol as if he was expecting us. I got one shot off and missed as I felt his bullet whiz past my head. I saw him clutch his right shoulder and stumble. He turned to face me and started walking directly at me, not caring at all that I had a gun. I fired another shot and missed, then another, and I missed again. Mari and Diego grew extremely nervous, hoping I could finish the job. I cocked the rifle back and realized the bolt action was clogged up with ash, and no matter how hard I tried to pull the trigger, the gun was completely jammed. Salvatore aimed his gun at us. 8 long years I've been working in these woods, and you motherfuckers think you can come in here and ruin my business? He opened fire. We dove, ducked, and tumbled for cover behind the burnt tree stumps, struggling to find one that was tall enough to protect us. His last round grazed my ribs and tore a piece of flesh clean off. He ran out of bullets, tossed his empty pistol aside, ran and tackled me into the ground. He had the look of a vicious, wounded animal, and the wild-eyed look of a man that planned to kill. We started wrestling back and forth, and once he saw my fire axe, he was desperately trying to steal it from me. We struggled for control of the axe, and he ripped it out of my hands and started slamming it down towards my face. At the last split second, he missed by an inch. Then I faked a jab, lowered myself down, grabbed around his midsection, and slammed him backwards into the ground, breaking his ribs and forcing him to drop the fire axe. He grabbed my wounded side, and I almost blacked out from the pain. I got a hold of his wrist, twisted it sideways, then snapped it back. He drove a knee up into my stomach and reached with his good hand for the fire axe. I headbutted him and busted open his nose. He screamed in pain and let go of the fire axe, giving me just enough time to grab it, raise it, and in 1 second I swung down, finally ending it. When it was over, I stood there for a long moment, trying to calm my breathing down. The whole world was quiet around me. At 10:30, a Cal Fire Black Hawk crested the ridge. The smoke had finally cleared enough for them to come in and rescue us. He picked us up and I could finally breathe easy. I hugged my best friend and kissed my wife. We made it.